When most people think about self-publishing on Amazon, they think about journals, planners, coloring books, puzzle books, things like that. And those are all great, but there is another niche that is incredibly steady, incredibly needed, and oftentimes overlooked by new self-publishers. And that is early reading workbooks for kids. Learning to read is one of the biggest milestones in a child's life. It is something that parents care deeply about, teachers focus on every single year, and families are always looking for ways to support at home. That means that books that help children learn to read, they're not based on trends or seasons or holidays. They're based on real development stages that repeat year after year with every new group of kids. In this video, we're going to take a big look at the Learn to Read workbook niche on Amazon. We're going to take a look at what books fall into this category, what these books usually include, how they are structured, and most importantly, how much money they have the potential to make, and why this is such a strong area for self-publishers to build in. So this isn't about one specific book idea. This is about understanding the whole learning journey so that you can see just how many opportunities sit inside this one niche. Now, if you are new here, I'm Caroline, and I am a self-publisher who has been creating and selling books on Amazon for over 7 years, and on this channel, I show you how to do the same. Now, first of all, let's talk about what Learn to Read really means when we are looking at books on Amazon. This is not just one type of workbook. It is a whole collection of early literacy resources that support children as they move from recognizing letters to actually reading simple sentences on their own. When you start browsing this niche, you'll notice that there are books focused on letter sounds, books that help children blend sounds together, books built around simple word families, and books that help children start reading short sentences and little stories. In this niche, you will see phonics workbooks, sight workbooks, CVC word books, blending practice, and early reader sentence books. Each of these play a different role in helping a child move forward with their reading skills. When you look at it this way, you can start to see that this niche is not built around one product or one book. It's built around progression. Kids move through stages, and books are created to support each one of those stages. Now, let's think about who these books are really for, because that explains why there is such consistent demand for them. The main buyers are parents of preschool and early primary school children. These are families whose kids are just starting school or about to start school, and reading is one of their biggest focuses. You also have homeschooling families who are actively looking for structured resources to use at home. Then there are teachers and tutors who recommend or who use extra practice materials. And then you've got even grandparents who like to buy educational gifts that feel meaningful but also helpful. These buyers are not just casually browsing Amazon, not knowing what they're looking for. They are searching with purpose. They want something that will actually help a child practice reading skills in a clear, simple way. Because of that, they often buy more than one book. A child doesn't learn to read in a week. It takes time. It takes repetition, and it takes practice at all different levels. So that naturally leads to families using multiple workbooks over months and sometimes even years. Now, let's take a look at the types of Learn to Read books you will usually see on Amazon. One big group is phonics and letter sounds. These help children connect letters with their sounds and start to understand how sounds come together to form words. You'll usually see activities where kids say the sound, trace letters, or match sounds to pictures. Here are some of the best-selling phonic books on Amazon, because I want you to really be able to see the potential of this niche and how much sales you can potentially make. First, there is the Learn to Read activity book. Now, this book currently has a bestseller rank of 211, which makes it one of the best-selling books across the whole of the Amazon bookstore. And if we take a quick look inside of this book, we'll see what kind of activities are in there, how it actually does teach kids to learn how to read. So it just basically blends fun activities with learning the letter. So in this case, the child has to follow the A's to get to the hot dog. And then on this activity, the child just has to say the name of what the picture is, and if it starts with the sound, then they circle it, and that's how they're beginning to learn letters. So this book sells very, very well with that bestseller rank. And what that means in terms of sales is that it is selling around 200 copies every single day. If the royalty on a book like this published through Amazon KDP is $2 to $3, then the potential royalties sit at around $12,000 to $18,000 per month. And that is royalties, not sales. Royalties is what you actually receive from Amazon into your bank account at the end of the month. The next one we're going to look at is my first Learn to Read workbook aimed at preschoolers. The thing with most Learn to Read books is you are going to be targeting the younger kids, the preschoolers, the early primary school ages. Now, this book is also full of fun activities that are just teaching very, very simple, basic beginner words. This book has a bestseller rank of 688, so doing exceptionally well as well. If you are new to Amazon or KDP, we use this bestseller rank to determine if a book is popular, to determine if a book is selling with Amazon's customers. So the lower that number, the better. And so with that bestseller rank, this book sells around 90 copies every single day, which adds up to 2,000 to 3,000 books each month. And the next one is the Learn to Read Phonics storybook for beginner readers. This one is also selling really, really well. It has a bestseller rank of 4,152, which means it sells around about 25 copies every day. So you can see these Learn to Read books are super popular. Another very popular group of books in this niche are CVC Workbooks. CVC stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. And these are very simple 3-letter words like cat, dog, sun, hat. And so as the name describes it, it's all just learning words of 3 letters that start with a consonant, the second letter is a vowel, and the third letter is a consonant. And these books usually focus on helping children sound out and read these short words. So these kinds of books are for the kids that are very young and at the very beginning of learning to read, usually with a lot of repetition and simple matching or writing activities. Let me show you what these ones look like. So we've got Learn to Read CVC Words Storybook. And if we take a look inside of this, I want to show you how simple and basic these words are. So starting with cat and sat are the first focus of the words. So they show what the words are, then they kind of put them into a sentence with an image so the child can sort of match up the sentence with the picture to understand what's going on here. And as I mentioned just before, young children learning something usually have a lot of repetition. So you can see this is just pages of the child repeating the same word over and over until they get the hang of it. And so this book is selling maybe 300 to 350 copies every single month. The next book is a self-published book, and this one's a little different because it is in black and white, which is great because it shows that ones without color can be just as popular as the ones with color. So this one's a lot more minimalistic and more focused on learning the words, writing the words, and repeating the words. Some pictures to associate the words to as well. So it's good to see that all different styles of books do well on Amazon or with these types of Amazon customers. And this one is bringing in royalties of around $1,000 per month for this publisher. So that is pretty great. Now you'll also see sight word workbooks in this group, in this niche. Sight words are just common words that children are encouraged to recognize instantly without sounding them out. So that's words like the, and, said, was. And these books, like the others, usually have a lot of repetition, tracing, and reading simple sentences that include these words. Like this one, My Sight Words Workbook with 101 high frequency words. It takes these very simple words, puts them in all sorts of different activities that over time and with repetition, the child will be able to recognize without having to sort of actually read them or sound them out. And it is good to include activities in your book because kids of this age, you do need to make learning fun and engaging to keep them interested and to keep their attention span going. And this book does have a bestseller rank of 3,717, so selling very, very well in the Amazon bookstore. Then we have this one, which is a little bit of a hybrid book. So it has letter and word tracing for handwriting practice for kids, but using sight words. So they are learning two things at once with this book. This book is actually a self-publisher and they have a whole series and a whole brand around educational books, some of the best-selling books on Amazon as well. And they do very, very well. So this book alone is selling a couple of thousand copies every single month, and the self-publisher is getting around $5,000 per month in royalties for that one book, out of a whole series and a whole brand of books that also sell really, really well. Then one more book that I want to share is this 200 must-know sight words activity workbook. This one is also self-published, so it is really great to see self-publishers up there with some of the bigger commercial brands doing just as well and even better than them. So this one focuses on learning the sight word, but also tracing over it so that they're repeating, writing the words, as well as reading them out. And although it does have a similar bestseller rank as the handwriting practice sight words book that we just looked at, they are basically selling around about the same amount of copies each month. This book is going to be making more royalties, around $8,000 per month in royalties. And that's because their book is just priced a little bit higher, which is great because it just proves that customers want quality and they aren't always looking for the cheapest book available. Now, as children get older and start gaining confidence, you'll start to see blending and early sentence books. These kinds of books help kids move from reading single words to reading short, simple sentences. The focus here is on putting sounds and words together smoothly so that reading starts to feel more natural. There are early reading practice books that include very short stories with controlled vocabulary, and these are designed to help children feel like real readers while still working with simple but familiar words. This book, The Big Book of Reading Comprehension Activities, is an example of that. So they have some longer, more descriptive sentences than an activity, a question about what they've read in the sentence. These kinds of books are just going to help kids move, as I said, from just learning simple words into learning short stories, longer sentences, and then understanding what is being said or described in those sentences. And when you step back and look at these all together, you can see that the Learn to Read niche, or these types of books, are really a pathway. Each type of book supports a slightly different stage, and that opens up a lot of room for different book ideas that all sit under one bigger theme. Now, let's talk about what these books usually look like inside, because the interiors are a big part of why this niche is approachable for self-publishers. Most Learn to Read workbooks have very clean, simple layouts. You'll see large fonts that are easy for young kids to read. There is usually a lot of white space on the page so that things don't feel overwhelming for the kid. Activities are repeated in a consistent format so children know what to expect. And instructions are usually written in a way that helps parents understand what to do, not just the child. Although we did look at just a few of these types of books on Amazon, if you go through and browse Amazon yourself and take a look at these kinds of books, you will notice that many of the interiors are black and white. They focus on clarity and function. The goal is to help the children focus on letters and words, not get distracted by busy or creative backgrounds. And this kind of layout works well for print on demand because it keeps things simple and practical. And as we know, Amazon KDP is a print on demand supplier for us. Another important thing to notice is how these books are structured. Learn to Read workbooks are usually built in a progressive way. So they'll introduce a sound, word type, or a pattern, and then give the children several chances to practice that same thing in slightly different ways. You might see a page where the word is introduced, another page where it's matched to a picture, another page where the word is traced, and then another where the word is read out in a simple sentence. This structure is really helpful for kids because repetition builds confidence, and it is helpful for us self-publishers as well because it basically gives us a clear system to follow. Once you understand the pattern, you can plan the pages in a very logical way instead of just trying to guess what's going to come next. And also, if you are wondering if you have to go ahead and create all these pages, all these activities by yourself, the answer is no. We do have tools, very, very simple to use tools that help us create these kinds of pages, that help us create these kinds of educational workbooks for us. I have a lot of videos where I talk about creating educational workbooks in all different types of niches. Links to the tools that I use myself and recommend are down in the description box below. if you want to go check them out and see what kind of educational workbooks you can create along with creating these types of learn to read workbooks for kids. Now, let's just zoom out and take a look at the bigger picture, because this is where the real opportunity in this niche becomes very, very clear. But this isn't something new. This isn't something I haven't talked about before. This is something I do talk about a lot. And that is that learn to read books naturally lend themselves to a series. A child will start at level 1 and then move up. So that might mean you creating a book level 1 and then level 2 and then level 3 and so on until you reach the maximum amount of books you can create for that subject. It might mean one book focused on letter sounds and then another book focusing on CVC words, another book on sight words, and another book on early sentence reading. Each book supports the next step in the journey. From a publishing point of view, that means you're not just creating one product. You're not just creating one book. You're building a collection, or you're building a series that families can come back to. If a parent likes one book and the way it's structured and how their child responds to it, they are very likely to come back and look for the next level or the next subject from that same publisher. And finally, let's just talk about why this niche works so well for self-publishers, especially if you are looking for something repeatable and structured. The interiors are very clean and they're very straightforward. The content follows patterns, which makes planning easier once you understand the learning stage that you're targeting. Most of these books are black and white, which keeps production very simple. And there is plenty of room to create multiple related books that all fit under one clear niche or theme. And I think most importantly, this niche is built around a real skill that all children need to learn. And that gives it long-term stability, because every year there is a new group of children starting their reading journey, and families are always looking for resources to support that process. In the next video, we are really going to hone in on one specific part of this learn to read pathway and actually create a real example, step by step, using some of the tools that I just mentioned earlier that are linked down in the description box below that I use to create these kinds of books, so that you can see how a book like this in this niche comes together in practice. That will help turn everything we talked about today into something that you can start building for yourself. If you found this helpful, make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you in the next video where we start putting this all into action. And if you did enjoy this video, YouTube thinks that you might like these ones too. So please go check them out to learn more about self-publishing your own low and medium content books on Amazon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.